Welcome back to another episode of Tuxedo Time, where we wear tuxedos in this time, podcast edition. What are we talking about today, Peckham?
Safety.
Safety. Oh my God. It's funny because you are sometimes known as Safety Pecs.
Yeah.
In our relationship.
I think your mic's too close to your mouth. I don't know. It sounds weird. Okay.
Sounds too good.
Wait, hang on. If we open this podcast and say, we're talking about safety, people are going to be like, fuck this.
Yes, they will.
Let's talk about how I did my first intro flight, but we'll talk about that later.
Becki Peckham flew a helicopter.
Yeah.
Okay, to be continued.
Okay, but first we're going to talk about where the fuck we were last week.
We were in Torrance, California last week. Why were we in Torrance, California?
We were in Torrance, California for the Robinson helicopter safety course.
For the R-44.
Yep. And I technically am not allowed to be a part of said course because I'm not a pilot.
It's only open for pilots and student pilots.
But they made an exception for me.
They did, yeah. And just for anybody who's curious, Robinson Helicopters is the largest helicopter manufacturer in the world. They are headquartered out of Torrance, California. And they've literally just got a giant factory that's along the edge of the airport. And they manufacture 3 models of helicopters. And they're all made right here in the USA, and they manufacture 90% of their components in-house. And if you get to do their factory tour, it's amazing just seeing all of the machines. They've got CNCs, they've got all these high-tech machines that with robotic arms are like touching the parts, and apparently they're checking the specs to like 1/1,000,000th of an inch apparently, making wire harnesses, painting things. It's just like a full assembly line, literally making helicopters. Raw materials in one door, helicopters out the other door.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
It is very neat. It was like a real life version of how it's made.
Yeah.
Because part of the safety course is a factory tour.
And if you watch our main channel and you saw our helicopter series last year, Heading West, where we flew the helicopter from Buffalo to Torrance for overhaul, that is where we dropped it off at the Robinson Helicopter Factory, where the safety course took place.
Yeah. And so it's been 11 months now, almost 12 months since I've flown a helicopter. Or since I had flown a helicopter. And so what we wanted to do was use this opportunity to attend the official safety course, which they offer for all of their various helicopter models. So we did the R-44 safety course. And it's basically 2 full days of classroom and 2 half days of classroom, plus basically a flight review. So an hour-long flight in whatever aircraft you've signed up for. So for me, it was an R-44, and that was the reason. That was the mission.
Yeah, we really wanted to get you back in the helicopter to do a little bit of training because you haven't been flying. And that's been a question I've seen pop up, is like how you're staying current. And it's really difficult because we live in an area where there are no flight schools, and there's obviously no helicopter rentals. That's just like not really a thing. The closest place that we could go is up in Waterloo. It's like a 2.5-hour drive. It's very expensive to rent their helicopters, and a lot of restrictions as well on what you can do with their helicopters. So you haven't really been flying. So we thought, you know what, let's do the safety course. It's been almost a year. Do some emergency training for you. I'd like to sit in on the course just so I could get a better idea of like what's going on. And then, hopefully pick up some nuggets to better prepare for our big trips.
Hence Safety Peckham.
Yes, I love safety.
The course started and I didn't know how you were going to take it, or I didn't know how you were going to sort of feel about it. I thought you'd be like, oh God, this is so boring. Because every time I talk about helicopters, you're just like eyes glaze over. Okay, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know either. So first of all, I haven't sat in a classroom since 2008. And I was never really a good student. Like sitting through lectures, pretty painful for me. So I was fully expecting to be like, okay, this is going to be pure hell for 2 full days.
3 full days, really.
3 full days.
2 days and 2 full days, 2 half days for a total of 3 full days.
Yeah, I was like, I guess like I'll just go on my phone or try to pay attention. I don't know. Like I just didn't really know what to expect. And I kind of expected the worst. I thought it was going to be really boring and really technical. Turns out it was fucking fascinating. And I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Within the first hour, you looked at me and she was like, this is about safety. I love safety.
And not only was it just like generally about safety, but like it pertains to the thing that we do all the time, right? Like we take on these trips. Like it's no secret that you and we like to go into remote places and camp and do those types of trips and long cross countries. And so we find ourselves in like remote areas or like planning for weird places.
We find ourselves in sketchy situations in the middle of nowhere in a helicopter is what you're saying?
Yeah. And so when it comes to like helicopter safety, I always want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, because also like we're putting our trips on the internet too, right? People are watching our trips, and you have a lot of people who are armchair pilots who aren't actually pilots who are going to be judging every move you make. And that's not like,
and who are actually pilots too.
And that too. Yeah. But I think that a lot of people who are pilots could probably watch our stuff and say, okay, that was probably, maybe I wouldn't have made the same choice, but I can see why you made that choice, where like somebody who isn't might not realize why we made a certain choice and think that we were dumb for, putting a helicopter in a field somewhere, when the number one thing of the safety course is land the damn helicopter if you're uncomfortable.
Yeah, that actually happened on Reddit.
Yeah,
I came across, because I'll peruse the helicopter subreddit every now and then, and someone posted a link to Cold Island back in like 2019 when we posted it. And the premise of the episode was that we basically had to divert because of weather, try to get around some weather, ultimately couldn't get around it. But as we were diverting, we ate into our reserve fuel supply, which is, I guess, there to use in emergencies.
Yeah.
But then we ended up ultimately having to put it down anyway and camp for 2 nights.
And you also have to understand, like, we made that decision because we were flying in an area with no radar information, no weather information, nobody on radio. So like nobody was reporting weather.
Right.
So we were flying what was happening outside was what was happening outside, and we made the decision to go. And, when we make the decision to go, it's clear, it's good. Yeah. And then you end up running into weather.
Right. And it's like, there's no app telling you if it's VFR or not. There's no METAR. There's no
so
reported,
remote.
Yeah,
There's
it's
nothing.
like
Yeah.
Your eyes are looking outside. Can I see 6 miles? Yes. Okay. It's VFR, or
is it windy? And you get a feel for these things. We were talking about this before. Like, you get a feel for how much wind is too much wind when you just walk out the door.
Right. It's like, this is the direction we're going. That's the direction the wind's coming from. It feels like 15, 20 knots.
Yeah.
Like you just get, that's just kind of the experience you get. Anyway, like someone posted a link to this video and basically said, here's everything not to do. And I looked at it and I commented, I was like, hey, this is my video. What did we do wrong? I don't see anything wrong with with the decisions we made based on the information we had. And I actually had just come from the Robinson Safety course back in 2018. And like one of the standout things I remember them saying was like literally Kurt Robinson, who's the son of Frank Robinson, the guy who started Robinson Helicopter. He at the time was the CEO and president. And he basically just said, if there's an issue, land the damn helicopter. That's like the unique thing that you can do with helicopters. Like, but for whatever reason, pilots, once they get an idea in their head, I'm going to make it from point A to point B, it's like they'll do anything to try to complete the mission even when safety is involved. So you fly into, bad weather, inadvertent IMC, which is basically flying into fog or a cloud and you can't see anything. That is like the number one killer of pilots, especially helicopter pilots. And it's incredibly dangerous. So it's like, if you get into bad weather, just land the helicopter. And so I was like, and I think what they were trying to get at was basically saying like, why did you even try to go?
Yeah, but you don't have all of the facts, or maybe that's the thing, like maybe we weren't clear enough on repeating ourselves on the fact in that video, like, hey, there is no radar information here. We're flying by,
right.
Because we said it in the first episode. It's another lesson, like going back to us, like how can we clearly communicate what we're doing,
right?
And make sure and like to the point where maybe it's like overkill.
Well, I mean, I told the guy, I was like, this isn't like you flying in the United States of America where there are, you're always 20 minutes away from an airport. You can always get fuel. You can always get usually cell phone reception when you're flying. So therefore, you can always get weather information. And if you can't get weather information via a cell phone connection or whatever, you can just basically radio in to the nearest ATC and get an updated weather report, or just, dial into the ATIS from a local airport that's near you. You can always get information that way.
Yeah, we've never been in that situation in the States ever.
No, but like north of the border in Canada, in the wilderness of Labrador, like
Quebec. We were
in
Quebec.
In the wilderness of Quebec, like there's hundreds of nautical miles between airports and there's no way to get any of that information. So like literally there's nobody on the radio. There's no ATC. Radar doesn't even exist in one of the stretches between Labrador and Quebec.
Where we were flying for that whole trip there,
right.
Until we got to closer to St. John's, no radar. Like you can see it on floor flight. There's just like an overlay thing that just says no radar.
Yeah, it's up kind of northeast, kind of takes out part of the northern peninsula, and then the corresponding mainland of Quebec and Labrador. There's just like, it just says no radar. Yeah. So even if we did have reception and we were able to get live weather information, it just doesn't exist.
Right.
So anyway, that's an interesting thing. Sidebar on sort of when we put things on the internet, you almost have to be hyper aware to how it's going to be received and how can someone take this in the wrong way or think, oh, these people are being irresponsible or these people are not doing the right thing and therefore they shouldn't be ambassadors of rotary wing aviation.
Yeah.
So hence, we went to the safety course.
Yeah. Well, you commented that guy, and the guy ended up deleting his comment after because he was wrong and he knew it.
Which is always the best.
Yeah, it is the best. We're not safe just because we're putting things on the internet. We're safe because helicopters is one of the most dangerous hobbies or things that you could do in the whole world. It's inherently dangerous. And so we want to do everything that we can to make sure that we stay alive. And I think that there's a thing where like some people might not really understand the world of like general aviation. And then I think also people don't realize how dangerous it is. Like how many people just like kind of get into a helicopter and just say, yeah, I'll go for a ride and not think about like your life could be on the line. How much do you trust the pilot who you're flying with?
Well, your life is on the line.
Yeah.
And you're putting your life in the hands of the pilot.
Yeah. And you want to hope that your pilot is, making the right decisions, has gotten sleep, is thinking clearly, and isn't going to push on when it's unsafe.
Right.
Right. And so I think that's something that we don't think, well, I do, but like other people, they'll get in the helicopter and just be like, yeah, cool, I want to go for a ride. But it's like, hang on a second. Like
I used to have people sign waivers before I went up with them.
Not a bad idea.
I've talked to some people about it, like pilots, and they basically kind of said like some people do, some people don't, most people don't. But it was kind of one of those things where like if you're grossly negligent, you're going to get sued. If there was such a bad accident that someone got killed or whatever, you probably also got killed too. So it's like you can be weird about it and be like, okay, sign this waiver, and it just didn't seem worth it after a while. But we were kind of saying this earlier. It's people either severely overestimate the risk of flying in a helicopter or they underestimate the risk. It seems like nobody nails it right on the dot.
Yeah.
And people just kind of like, oh yeah, sure, I'll get in the helicopter with you. You like, because and logically they think like, well, he doesn't want to kill himself, and therefore he's going to keep me safe, which is a great way to think about it. And it's also for people who have a fear of flying, like commercially, just thinking the pilots are professionals, they know what they're doing, and they don't want to die either. So why are they like? They're not going to put themselves at risk and in turn put you at risk either. Yeah. Or people overestimate the risk and they say, and those are the people say like, you want to go for a helicopter ride? They're like, absolutely no way in hell would I ever get in a helicopter with you.
Yeah. Oh, a helicopter falls out of the sky. It's like, well, that's not true. Or like a bunch of things that they think.
When will a helicopter fall out of the sky?
When your blades stall.
Yes. When you get a blade stall. Yes.
Yeah. So that is something like I obviously, if you watch our channel and you've been following along, like, that I am afraid of flying. And there's a lot of like boogeyman kind of scenarios where like, I know that this thing can kill us and that scares the shit out of me. And what the safety course did for me was like really clear up a lot of the things that I was afraid of and like rationalizing it and like me realizing like these are the scenarios in which this thing that I'm really afraid of will kill us. And here's how to fly where now this thing won't kill you. And so before, I'll give you an example, like mast bumping. So mast bumping is something that when you get into a low, I can't even explain this without like the technical stuff of the helicopter.
I want to see if you can explain it.
Okay. Yeah. Mast bumping is when
see if you're paying attention to the safety course in the layman's terms now.
Okay. It's Robinson helicopters have a teetering rotor system, right? Two-blade rotor system.
Two-bladed semi-rigid. Nailed it.
Thank you.
I am semi-rigid right now. Can we put that in this podcast? Okay.
Of course. This is rated R.
Yeah, rated R.
Rated R podcast.
Okay.
So when we're flying, you get this like low G feeling, right? It's like being in a roller coaster.
I'm getting to a fully articulated state right now.
Stop. You're going to be so rigid that you're going to stall and then.
Oh my God. Continue.
Anyway, if you feel that roller coaster feeling in a helicopter, it's not good because what can happen is you can get rotor and fuselage separation, right? Basically.
It's like decoupling.
Yeah. So your basically rotor system, kind of detaches from the body of the helicopter.
Well, they're still physically linked.
They're physically linked, but
what you're trying to describe is that the fuselage is no longer hanging from the rotor disc, which is a normal state of flight.
Right.
Normally it's
which loads the disc, and then that's what kind of
yes. There needs to be positive G forces, a positive load on the disc. So if you get into the low G state, you now sort of have uncoupling. You're no longer exerting, downward force on the rotor system.
Right. So what can happen is if you get into that state, you can have a roll to the right, right? You have a roll to the right. And instinctively, if you're rolling to the right, you're going to put in a left cyclic. But that's not right because if that happens, you'll get mast bumping and it will detach. So what you're supposed to do is pull back, what they call aft cyclic on the little thing that's in the front, pull back, reload the disc, and then you're fine. So I just assumed anytime that you were flying in high wind situations or turbulence and you felt the low G, because that's what you feel sometimes, like
just like a little like ping of it. Yeah.
That it's over. Mass bumping is imminent and we're going to fucking die. What I didn't realize, or what I learned at this course, is like when you feel that, or you're in these like turbulent situations, in which we were in heading west, like coming through like Banning Pass, and we were in Palm Springs and stuff, and the hot heat of the desert, it's really bumpy. And so we were getting a little bit of that. So like, I knew that you said like, if we slow down, we'll be okay. But like, it didn't really compute. I was like, mass bumping will happen no matter what. But what I learned at the course is that if you slow down to 60 knots, you're not going to get into mass bumping.
No one in the course will speak in absolutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's like, sure, could you get in a mass bumping situation?
Probably. If it was
going
bad
60
enough,
knots?
yeah.
Sure. But it effectively makes the risk a lot lower.
Yeah. And so I just assumed like turbulence equals mass bumping.
Right. But you also learned that there needs to be a chain of events that happens. It's not just like low G state, dead.
Yeah.
It's
low G state, wrong input and controls.
Yeah, low G state, which results in the rightward roll, which then has to result in a left cyclic input by the pilot, which happens kind of instinctually, because if you just like anybody,
if you're rolling right, you're gonna
it's like, oh shit, I'm rolling to the right. Well, of course I'm gonna put my cyclic to the left to counteract that, because that's just like natural. And of course, that's when you close that angle between the rotor and the mast, and it hits the stop, and then bad things happen.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of things that you learn have to happen in order to get down that sequence of events.
Yeah. So it was like the concept of mass bumping, what I was afraid of, really got like demystified during the course.
Right. And it was almost like you had enough knowledge to know that mass bumping is a boogeyman that exists.
Yeah.
But not enough knowledge to realize that certain things have to happen to get to that point.
Exactly.
And the mitigating things that we've done or we avoid, or the precautions we take, we're doing it for a reason.
Yeah. They covered a lot of accident stuff in the safety course. There was one full day, and I found it hilarious because this guy Bob, who was teaching the course, was
this guy Bob. Bob's a legend in the helicopter
Bob
industry.
Is a legend, and Bob is going to be my new best friend. Okay,
you and Bob are kindred spirits. You guys
have a lot of shit in common.
You were bonding over the camping gear that you're selecting, and then the bags,
survival YouTube channels that we watch.
You guys you watched like these obscure survival YouTube channels.
This dude is fucking great. I have met very few people who watch the same YouTube channels I watch.
Right. But to then have somebody who watches like the actual same ones.
Yeah.
Unheard of. Anyway.
Yeah.
So you and Bob are besties now.
Yeah. Bob doesn't know this yet. But Bob are besties. Okay. So anyway.
And his wife Becki is really sweet too.
They're both precious. So Bob's teaching this course, and Bob is like the kind of guy who's just like a natural storyteller, absolutely hilarious. Delivery on everything is like amazing, but always like the story or the moment kind of comes back to an educational thing, and it gets stuck in your head because of how he's delivering like the information.
It's entertaining too.
It is.
It's not just dry material being delivered in a classroom.
Right. And that's what I was afraid of, that it was just going to be dry material. And I think had he not been teaching it would have been somebody else who wasn't, had the personality or the storytelling, capabilities. I think I probably would have walked away with a different experience.
Oh, 100%. What was the mantra that you got stuck in your head the other night?
Rotor RPMs are your life. Lose your rotor RPMs, lose your life.
RPMs. Plural. RPM.
Yeah. That's what he called it. RPMs though.
Did he?
He's calling it RPMs. Yeah.
I love it.
So anyway, I kept on telling Bob, like, dude, if you taught me high school, I probably would have done a lot better in school. Like I probably would have gotten plus, over 70. Anyway.
You got over 70.
Well, some courses, yes. Others, well. But why was I talking about Bob?
So you're talking about your experience in the class.
Oh, okay. Helicopter pilots typically are like type A people, right? They're like super risk takers. He asked the whole class, like, who here has ridden a motorcycle before? And almost every single person raised their hand.
We were the only couple of people, like you and me and maybe a handful of other people.
Yeah, had never been on one.
Out of like 30 or 40 people in the class.
Yeah. Can you define like a type A personality for me?
Yeah, type A people are kind of like grab life by its horns, very assertive.
Risk taker,
dominant, versus like, maybe they'd be more likely to start a business. Whereas type B would be, more passive.
More introverted.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like a B+. I feel like a type B+.
You definitely have certain type A qualities, but yeah, you have kind of foot over both. I don't think you fit on the type AB spectrum. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. You are a very classic type A. Very classic. And so you have this room full of like type A people, right? Who are like nuts. And I'm probably one of the only people in the room who's like not nuts. Like, I mean, everybody flies helicopters and I don't. So
I think what was it at the intro, Kurt Robinson said that there's something wrong with everybody in this room because they're helicopter pilots.
You got to be a bit sick, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, it was funny because like if you were trying to get across to somebody who is a risk taker that you might die doing this thing, it takes a lot more than just being like, oh, well, like this is the risk.
Yeah, you can't say like, okay, you know, there's 4 fatal accidents in 100,000 flight hours or whatever the stats are.
It's not gonna stick.
You've got to be very like in your face.
Yeah, and so he was like, if this happens and you do this, you will die.
If you go inadvertent IMC, you will die.
Vortex ring state, you don't get it out of that shit, you will die. I was like, oh my God. So like, I was like, holy shit.
And that was in like the first like hour or two.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no. Is this going to be regressive for her? Because like, I understand that he has to be like very stern with all these, like these cowboys, basically like a room full of cowboys who are like flying helicopters. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was hilarious.
You've got to be like very, very stern and very like almost like overemphasize it.
It was like a cartoon. It was like a cartoon when you see, like, you watch a movie or something and they cut to a class and the teacher's like, if you have sex, you're going to get them pregnant and get STDs and your dick's going to fall off. Like that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
If you go into low G-mass public, your dick will fall off. I mean, it could.
It could. You don't know.
Yeah, those blades have come through the cabin before.
Dick straight off.
Right, yeah.
Right? Anyway.
You wore the helmet? But your dick got
you need a helmet. Helmet dick. Oh my God, where's this going? Fuck. Anyway, so
ambassadors of the helicopter of aviation, rotary wing aviation.
Can we even put this on the internet?
I don't even know.
Anyway, so I already know that all of this shit can kill you. I'm already fucking terrified of all of it. Yeah. I already watched the accidents when they pop up on YouTube. And I got worried that we read the NTSB reports.
And I got worried that this overemphasized delivery, again, optimized for the type of person I am, was going to like spiral you and scar you into like never wanting to fly again.
I was just like, oh my God, this is what it takes to get it into these people. Like, you're going to die doing this thing.
Yeah, but you knew, you read the room. You're like, I know exactly the type of people these people are. These are like my husband. And
yeah, nuts. And so he's like, you know, this is going to happen. You're going to die. I'm like, yes. This is going to happen. You're going to die. Yes. You know, so I was just like, thank you, you know, validating. But so I just thought it was like kind of entertaining. A lot of the accident, you know, videos and stuff, like I've seen quite a few of them, not all of them. It's jarring to watch and then see a photo of the people who died.
Yeah,
like,
because
it's horrifying.
And that was almost part of the shock therapy.
Yeah.
Right? It was like you see the family photo of the person.
Yeah.
You know, you hear these gruesome stories and you see the gruesome accident.
Yeah.
And then there's like a photo with you know, a guy with, you know, all of his loved ones who were with him, you know, and it's just like, oh my God.
And they're all dead. It's horrifying.
It is, yeah. But it's like almost like, okay, that's jarring. That it needs to be that way.
It does, yeah. It really does. And I think like going back to like people don't understand when they get in the helicopter what the risk is. Like when you see those accidents and see the photos and hear the stories and what happened, it's like, fuck. Like,
in case anybody's listening to this and is unable to kind of fathom, like, because we're saying this is so risky. This is not the most risky thing you can do. You can go. If you go skydiving,
free solo a fucking cat, like
skydiving is probably skydiving is probably more risky. Riding a motorcycle, well, it's the accident stats aren't reported in the same units because usually they go unit like fatal accident per like distance driven, whereas aviation accidents are fatal accidents per unit time. If you kind of like try to convert them, you'll find it's probably about as risky as riding a motorcycle, maybe a little less.
Yeah. The first day was kind of a lot of that, so I was just like, I know this is really scary, and like to me, like it's horrifying to see the photos and hear the accidents, but it's also informative because it's like, oh, you can almost see exactly what decisions led to this fatality. And a thing that I found really interesting, he said that 85% of accidents are actually pilot error. Like 2% are maintenance and 2% are like other little things like engine failures. Like we always are worried, like, what if the engine quits? And that's something that like is a boogeyman for me as well. Like, you know, mass bumping, engine quitting, and like getting into auto
power plant or drivetrain failure.
Exactly. And so like, these are the boogeyman, but then you really realize like those things are so rare, and the things that people are dying from are pilot error.
Totally preventable things.
Totally preventable. And so that's where like the education component comes in, where it's like, this killed somebody. how do we not get in that situation, or like recognize the situation before it happens? You know, like for instance, there was one where they landed the helicopter. It was getting dark. They were at an airport.
They landed because of poor weather.
Yeah.
And it was getting dark and the weather didn't improve.
And they wanted to get home.
And they really wanted to get home.
So they went.
And they decided then to try again and departed the airport when the weather was even poorer.
And it was getting dark.
And now it's dark.
Yeah.
And it's just, you see it unfold, right?
Yeah.
You can just like, you set the question up like, oh, they landed because of poor weather. It's like, oh, great, you made the right call. Then they went up again when conditions were even worse.
And then you're just like, no, please no.
Yeah. And then it's just the fate is sealed.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it for me was validating that some of the decisions that or all of them that we've made in the past are correct. You know, like when you make the decision that you are going to land, you're done. You've made that decision and we're not going up again.
Right.
Especially if it's weather. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously if the weather clears and the radar is saying, yeah, we're VFR and you can look outside and the weather is good and it's still light out, sure.
Yeah.
But like if it's getting dark and you think, oh, the weather's sketchy or it's getting dark or I don't like this, I'm going to land, you're done.
Yeah, because then you're looking for an off-airport landing somewhere else if you try to push ahead, and now it's dark, and you're setting yourself up for failure. Swiss cheese model of errors. All the holes line up, and something bad happens.
Yeah.
But this wasn't like, again, wasn't all shock therapy where they show these gruesome accidents and then show the loved ones and just scare people. It really was an in-depth of look and say, okay, let's break this down. Let's do a root cause analysis. Mm-hmm. Let's see all the factors at play here and really focus on the things that we can take away from it as pilots so that we can learn from this.
How can we mitigate risk by learning through other people's mistakes kind of thing?
You mentioned an interesting point about like engine failures being like a very small single-digit % of these fatal accidents.
Yeah.
And we often, like as helicopter pilots, we often train doing practice auto rotations. And an auto rotation, for anybody who is not a helicopter pilot and doesn't know, an auto rotation, well, why don't you explain what auto rotation is, because you did the safety course.
All right, well, let me try it. I'll try not to butcher this one.
Okay.
Because I'm really not good at explaining stuff.
That's okay. You did a great job in the last one.
There's a common misconception that when helicopters engines quit that they fall out of the sky. But it's actually not true. They can glide like a plane.
Yes.
So long as you disengage your fucking rotor thing.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. If you put the collective down and take the drivetrain is rotating freely, right? Your rotors can still spin.
Yeah. So basically, when you have pitch on the blades, i.e. in a power on state of flight, the flow of air is going from above the disc. And by disc, I mean the rotor spinning around, effectively creating a disc, a big propeller, essentially a fan.
Yeah.
It's going to be moving air from above the disc down to below the disc, which creates lift, and that's how the helicopter flies.
So when the engine is out and you change the pitch of the blades, you can switch the air where it's like going up.
Right.
There's like resistance.
So if you can expeditiously get the collective down so you flatten the pitch of the blades out so they're no longer aggressively attacking the air. Because if your engine quits, the blades will slow down very quickly because they have a high angle of attack.
What is that Bob says? Rotor RPMs are your life. Lose your rotor RPMs, lose your life.
Right. So once your engine quits, your pitch of your blades is in an aggressive configuration because it's biting a lot of air and it's kicking it down below to fly.
Yeah.
But once that engine stops turning that main rotor drive shaft and the pitch remains aggressive, the rotor RPM, how fast the blades are spinning, will decay down.
Right.
And if it decays down past a certain threshold, it isn't recoverable.
Yeah, that's when the blade stall happens.
Right, exactly.
And it happens very quickly.
And that will result in a helicopter flying out of the sky. But if you identify that your engine has failed quick enough and
enter an auto rotation.
Correct. By
lowering the collective aggressively.
If you know your engine quits, just get the collective down.
Collective down.
So flattens the pitch of the blades, and now the airflow reverses. So instead of forcing air from above the rotor system down below it, the airflow is coming from below it now through the rotor system, and
you can control the aircraft getting to the ground safely. I was going to say.
So you can glide to the ground basically, as long as you get you identify the engine failure, get the collective down, so you flatten the pitch of the blades, so that the air rushing through the blades can keep turning them like a pinwheel.
Like a pinwheel.
Yeah.
And you can glide.
Yeah.
One of the things that I also took away from this course was like the procedures of things happening. So like I learned that I need to read the manual. And
RTFM?
Yeah, I do. And like understand like what this light means. Like when this light comes on, it means land at earliest convenience. If this light comes on with this light on, that means like put it on the ground immediately. If this light is flickering, that means that the light bulb's bad. You know what I mean? Because the thing that I took away from what he was saying was that like a warning light of like the light bulb is gone. You might think, oh my God, like carbon monoxide poisoning, and then suddenly enter an auto rotation and panic.
You're talking about the one blink every 4 seconds on the carbon monoxide sensor. There's a sensor error.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like familiarizing yourself with like what everything means. And like, obviously you know what that is, but he was also talking about crew resource management. And like, obviously that applies more so when you're flying like 2 pilots, you know, but like, let's be real. I am part of the crew. I can't fly, but you know, I am preparing for these trips. I'm packing for these trips. I'm making sure that we have all the things. Like I'm helping take some of the tasks off you by putting in your squawk codes and changing your altimeter settings and things like that. You know, I'm not helping you a lot.
My squawk queen.
But like, it's, you know, if you have somebody who's there who has a better understanding of what's happening, it's like you can easily, you know, kind of diagnose things, or even if a light comes on and I know, okay, that light means land is at your earliest convenience. I'm not going to have a panic attack thinking, holy shit, we have to put it down.
I think they worded it like land as soon as practical.
Right. So you're not going to just like put it on top of trees.
It's not just like enter an auto rotation, you know, and it's not just put it down immediately. It's just, you know, go to the next airport kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, I didn't realize all of these lights have different types of meanings. And if you have 2 and a smell, or 2, or like 1 and a smell and a weird sound, okay, that's a bit different. But for me, like as an anxious flyer, I think understanding all of this stuff better makes me a less anxious passenger princess, because it's just a bit less scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I can manage like, okay, like we're not going to get into mass bumping because now we've slowed down to 60 knots and we're riding it out. And I know that if the wind is too high, you're going to say we're putting it down and we're going to go to an airport.
Right.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the warning caution lights, you know, they color code them.
Yeah.
So if
it's red, you're going to put that shit down.
If it's red, land immediately, basically. If it's yellow, land as soon as practical. Yeah. It's kind of the thing. And then, but knowing like, you know, the main rotor chip light, the tail rotor chip light, it sounds scary because it technically means, do you know how that works?
What do you mean, the light?
The chip lights. Do you know what those are?
Yeah, it says that there's like something, that there could be like a piece of metal or something.
Yeah, like metal shavings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so people think...
I know that can be a fake out too on like new aircrafts where it's just like a little bit of debris.
Fuzz. Yeah, they call it fuzz. Yeah, break-in fuzz. Yeah. That's very common. But yeah, it's basically 2 little electrodes that are just in the gearbox, and if a little tiny piece of metal connects those 2 electrodes and it completes the circuit, the light comes on. Okay. And but like, again, it's a very common thing. But if that light came on and you heard some grinding back there, get that ship down and prepare to enter auto rotation, because you might end up with you know, a catastrophic failure kind of thing. Right. Anyway.
Yeah, the safety course kind of covered a lot of that stuff. It's like accidents and procedures and some of the more technical aspects of flying. And like, I think I understood about 95% of what he was talking about. Once he started getting into calculations about like manifold pressure and stuff, I was like, what? Until he showed a diagram. And that was also really helpful, because like a lot of times when we're flying, you ask me what manifold pressure. And so I check for you, you know, I look at the temperature and the altitude that we're flying at and give you a number. But I knew that it was called manifold pressure, but I didn't really know what that was.
You knew it had to do something to do with the engine.
Yeah, until I went to the course. And he showed a diagram of it and it just clicked.
Right. And it's like how it results in, it's a direct correlation with, given this temperature and pressure combination, how much horsepower is the engine putting out. Mm-hmm. And the manifold pressure gives you that.
Before the course, like when you're at higher altitudes, you have less performance. It takes more power to fly,
right,
or hover or whatever. But I didn't really get it until I saw the visual. It unlocked a lot of little nuggets for me. It like linked things together. I was like, I kind of understand this and I kind of understand that, but like, what the fuck here? And now it's just like a big, you know, pretzel, and I kind of understand it all a little bit better.
Well, I think it probably gave you some context for a lot of things. Like,
it did, yeah.
You've had 5 years of just having random facts thrown at you about helicopters.
Yeah.
But no idea of no framework or outline of where to plug those in.
And no practical like vibes from like flying, because I just was too afraid to take the controls.
Right. So you don't have the practical side of it to put it all together. So I almost would say like you're sort of like a connect the dots picture where you had a bunch of dots.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you've connected them and oh my God, there's a picture here. And it's like, this makes so much sense now.
Totally. Yeah, it does. It makes a lot more sense. And also I'm like a lot less scared. You know, there's other things I'm like, oh shit, didn't realize that would kill us. But like, you know, but
there were a few more dots that were filled in that you didn't.
More, yeah. But, you know, overall, I think it was really beneficial. I'm really glad that they made the exception to let me sit in. Because I mean, like I said before, and I think I said it when I introduced myself to the class, I was like, I'm not a pilot. I have 0 hours. Like I don't know how to fly, but I have like over 300 hours in the passenger seat. And so when Bob was talking about some of these scenarios that you might come across, we have come across quite a few of them in our 5 years.
We have, yeah.
You know, like when we had the fuel filter light come on, and like a couple of other weird things with the carbon monoxide light come on before almost ran out of gas up in Quebec. And that's documented on our channel. So like a lot of these scenarios, you know, he's talked about, but it's like, oh, okay. He's like, if this thing happens, like do this. And it's like, oh, that thing did happen. And that's what we did. So, okay, check. That was the right decision.
Well, we're still here, so.
Well, obviously. Yeah. But you never know. Like, I mean, like I said, I don't know a lot. I don't fly. I'm not a pilot. I've never flown. So,
but interestingly enough, like there was a lot of people in the course who had, you know, 100 hours, 150 hours, less than 100 hours. And you actually have more experience in a helicopter than some of the people in the course. But the knowledge was lacking, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that a lot of these people, especially when you're in flight school, a lot of it is very controlled. You know, you've got a flight instructor who's overseeing all of your decisions and ultimately giving you authorization when you can't fly.
Yeah.
But like, you know, you've been kind of in the sort of private owner realm, which is kind of can sometimes be the Wild West because, you know, like Bob said,
you're making your own decisions. There's no
There's no standard operating procedures like a manual that most companies have that say, oh, well, all the decisions, we'll make this easy for you. If the visibility is less than this many miles, if the ceiling is lower than this, you don't fly. That's just the company policy.
Right.
And it takes the burden out of the individual pilot and ultimately makes things safer.
Yeah.
But when in the private owner realm, you don't have a standard operating procedure. You have your own personal weather minimums.
Yeah.
Some people don't even have them and just kind of go on vibes. But you know, it's arguably you've kind of been in some more sticky situations than a lot of people in that course, or some of the people in the course have been in probably.
Well, I kind of liken it to like going to school for graphic design and then working in the industry. It's like you learn how to do all of the things, but until you start working with clients and getting feedback from art directors and like real feedback, and then that's when you start the learning.
Oh my God, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like you still need that foundation of like how to use Illustrator and how to do a logo and like how to use the pen tool. Those are the skills that I don't have in the pilot world. Like I don't know how to fly. It's a little bit different, obviously, because you need to learn all of these things in order to be able to do the things for the client versus like flying. You can be exposed to it and be in all these situations without actually touching the controls because you're a passenger.
Right.
So it's a bit different. But anyway, I thought it was really good. It was beneficial. How did you find it? Did you like it?
Yeah, no, it was good. It was a great refresher. And you know, I choose to do an annual flight review every year, which involves like a half day of ground and, you know, like 1.5 hours of flight training. And that's done so that mostly to stay safe, but also because I get a break in my insurance because the FAA requires you to biannual flight review. So flight review every 2 years, but doing it every 1 year is better. But even then, like you spend a couple hours in the morning going over accident reports in a standard manner, but it's not 3 solid days of intensive straight from the manufacturer stuff, right? Like this is good stuff.
Yeah. It was
and
good.
I did this course in 2018. Again, a lot of it was review. It should be review, you know?
Yeah.
But there were good refreshers.
Right.
And
I guess like as an experienced pilot, you shouldn't be going to that course and like learning a bunch of new shit.
No, you shouldn't be in the situation that Becki was in where she learned a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Which is great for me. You know what I mean? But it's review. I mean, take away some nuggets. I mean, Bob's a fucking legend. So like, if you're not picking up nuggets, you know, then like, are you paying attention kind of thing? Mm-hmm. But you know, you had a couple of like little saying things that kind of stick in your head and you're like, okay, like this is a
failure to plan is a planned failure or whatever it was.
I love that one. Yeah. Which is like, for me as like a person who loves planning and being prepared for shit, like that hit home.
You loved his scenario-based training.
I did.
If this happens, what do you do?
Yes.
And you're like, yes, tell me all of this because I want to know. I want to have all these algorithms. If this, then this.
Yes, exactly. I said that before we were planning a remote trip that, I don't know, we're hoping to do maybe next year. Who knows? And I was like, I want to create a document that says like, if this happens, then call this person. If this happens, then this is the person to contact or whatever. In the scenario based training, in the scenario where something happens, we end up in a remote area or on the ground, something happened to you. Who the fuck do I call if da-da-da?
I mean, who would you call?
Bob.
Yeah, you got a lot of contacts.
I do, yeah.
You can call Austin.
I'd call Austin. I'd call Bob. Or I'd
Austin
call
Claiborne,
Trent.
who's our buddy. Yeah, you can call Trent too. Yeah.
But like, again, and it's like preparedness, right?
Yeah.
Like we talk about going into a remote scenario. What are we bringing? There's no radio reception. There's nobody, like, there's no airports around. So like you have a Garmin inReach, but like, what if that breaks? Do you bring a satellite phone? Like 2 is 1 and 1 is none scenario, right? Like I like the idea of having that. So I can pick up the phone and call somebody and talk to somebody for like 2 minutes instead of trying to write a message, waiting for that to send, waiting for them to reply. Like in a scenario where it could be an emergency or like life threatening, having that phone there is a lot better.
Whatever you want to do.
Anyway, yeah, I'm going to take control on that one.
There you go.
Anyway.
So the last, to round this out, because we're coming up on 44 minutes here.
Oh, God, already.
Bob offered to take you up.
He did.
For a flight.
He did.
And as literally, just to give people context here, Bob is basically in charge of safety at Robinson. And that's a big role. So he's kind of like one of those, like, you know, there's like these like godfathers of like helicopters. I'd put him in like that, in that stature.
Legend.
Yeah. Like Frank Robinson asked him to teach Frank's kids how to fly. So if the founder of the helicopter company chooses somebody to say, hey, I want you to teach my kids to fly, you can probably guess that this person's probably one of the best helicopter instructors in the world.
Yeah.
And Bob's, if he ever listens to this, he's probably like, you know, he deny it. But seriously, like when you get an endorsement of that's the biggest endorsement one can ever get. So it was an honor to have him be able to do your first official intro flight. It
really was. And like, I was really nervous and I wanted to say no, but like, I knew I couldn't turn down that opportunity.
Yeah. And that's real. Like you've taken the cyclic and flown straight and level with me, like on a handful of occasions.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, you do it for a few, like maybe 10, 15 seconds. You're like, okay, take it. Take it. You like every little bump and so you really don't get much out of it.
Yeah.
But you had to be in your best behavior for Bob.
Well, I don't know if I was, because we took off and there was wind and I hadn't been in a helicopter in a year.
My butthole is puckering.
Oh my God. I was like, oh my God. And he's like, do you have controls? And I was like, what do you mean I have controls? Like, what?
And he's like, you are flying a helicopter right now. You are the pilot.
I'm like, what the fuck? Jesus. Anyway, so I thought it was really interesting because I remember when you were in flight school and we were living in Vancouver, you came home and you had about 10 hours and you were like, I don't think I'm ever going to get this, which to me was like, holy shit, this must be really hard if Chris Nicholas is not going to get this. Because like you pick up shit really fast. You're a really smart guy. Like you have a lot of skills.
I appreciate you.
And I love you.
I love you too.
And so I was like, fuck, this shit must be really hard. And so I was like, I don't fucking want to do that. Like,
I don't
fucking too hard. Yeah. Anyway, but I remember you saying like, oh my God, after, you know, practicing trying to hover, like flying, you're just zonked after an hour. And I remember Lyle said that to you, your flight instructor. He said, you are going to be so tired after your first 30 minutes, like, or, you know, for the first like 10 or 20 hours. Like
I was so green. I went to him and I was like, okay, we need 105 flight hours. I got this many weeks. I divide it up. I'll do 3 to 4 hours every weekend and I'll finish a commercial license in the time that I'm in Vancouver.
And he was like, absolutely not.
And he just laughed at me. He's like, Chris, you'll see, but you can't just do 3 or 4 hours. He's like, you could do it, but after the first hour, you're going to be so like saturated that the remainder hours are going to be painful, struggling, not as safe as they should be. And ultimately you're going to be spending all this money and you're not going to get it out of it. Like after an hour, it's just going to go in one ear out the other. Yeah.
And so I remember you telling me that and I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And so, and you've heard me say this probably a million times and you're probably sick of me hearing it, but like the flight went in 3 stages. Okay. He took off, fear, anxiety, all of the things that I felt last going off and heading west all came back. Oh my God, there's the bumps from the wind. Suddenly I'm on the controls. I'm sweating. My legs are shaking. Fear. Then we get over to the coast and I'm like, okay.
And it smooths out a bit too.
It smooths out. And then he's like, okay, you're doing it now. Like follow the coast. Okay. So I like, you know, turn right a little bit, turn left a little bit.
More aggressive, follow the coast.
Okay. And then he goes, okay, we're going to do a 360. And now I'm like, okay, now I'm in it. Okay. I start turning. He goes, more. more. Okay, I'm pushing it over. He's like, keep it level. So I'm like looking at the controls, keeping it level. Why, you know, and we're doing it. And I'm like, holy fuck. Like,
I'm flying a
helicopter. And then, you know, he's like showing me how, like, some power changes. And I'm starting to understand, like, when you pull up on the collective, you have to push forward on the cyclic to keep straight and level. Click, right? Didn't understand it. Got it. Not that I was good at it, but it made sense. Yeah. Like, that's the thing. It just made sense.
So now you're manipulating two controls.
Yeah.
He was doing the pedals for you because technically you should have put a little bit of left pedal in.
Yeah, my feet were on the pedals so I could feel what he was doing. But like, I could.
Don't worry about it at this stage.
I don't even remember what the pedals were doing because it was just so overwhelming. Because it's like you're flying and you're like, okay, this does this does this. You're watching your airspeed and then you're looking out to make sure you're not hitting something. And then am I straight? Oh no, I'm like descending or I'm ascending. And now what do I have to do to fix that? Oh, I could either push forward. Now I'm going to slow down, or I can like pull up on the collective, push forward, you know, and like
push forward, you'll speed up.
Speed up. Yeah.
You'll nose down.
Yeah.
I understand though.
You will nose down, but like if you don't want to go down, if you want to go straight and level and speed up.
Oh yeah. Then you got to put more power
forward.
in.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I just didn't get that before. And now I'm just like, holy shit. Like, and then, you know, at a certain point you're like, oh fuck, rotor RPMs that's your life. And so like, fuck, you got to look at the rotor RPMs and like, do you know what I mean? And then, oh my God, manifold pressure. God, we got like, what's max continuous? I don't fucking know. I didn't check. Like, you know what I mean? So and then suddenly it's like, so I think I had probably, I don't know, it felt like 5 minutes, but it was probably like 15 or 20 minutes of just like, I got this shit. And then like, he was showing me different things. And then we slowed it down and he was like, look at this. And like, moved the cyclic around and he was like, nothing's going to happen at the speed. And I was like, okay, this now makes sense.
Like he was kind of, moving the cyclic, not aggressively, but like, you know, kind of in random motions to simulate, you know, turbulence at a low speed.
Yeah.
And it felt like we were going through turbulence, right?
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, okay, it's all fine.
And he's like, this is it. Nothing's going to happen. And I was like, holy fuck. And then it just clicked. And I was so oversaturated. I couldn't understand a word he was saying to me. I couldn't remember what I was doing. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then I got really like motion sick. I think because we were doing turns and I was looking at the water and the water was doing waves and stuff. And I was just like, oh, and then then I started to get panicking like, oh, I'm flying the helicopter. Oh my God, I feel really sick. I'm not in control anymore. And it was like that switch that you were talking about. Like, you're going to be so oversaturated that you're not going to get it anymore.
Right.
And that's what happened.
You're done.
Yeah. And so we were supposed to go back and do a little bit of hover work. And I was like, there's not a chance. Like, I felt oversaturated every day after the course because I was learning so much stuff for the first time. But after flying just for that like short period of time, like we landed and I was like, for the entire rest of the day, it felt like somebody cut my scalp open, took the top of my scalp, put it like an inversion blender in, blended my brain, and then like just taped closed.
Put your skull cap back on.
Yeah. And I was just like frazzled. We had seen Jenna and Justina that night and I was just like, boss, I can't even talk. Like, I don't even, like, I was trying to have a conversation and I was like, I can't. My brain's broken. Anyway, it was really cool. I would like really appreciate Bob's time to like do that for me. It was a really big deal to like take the controls and have that moment of clarity and stuff to click, even just one thing to click after all this time. Like, I remember the first time we flew together and I had to be on motion sickness medication and I was looking at the horizon trying not to throw up. And like, sometimes I'd have to put my head in a certain way because I was so like dizzy.
Oh yeah. That was like back in 2018.
Yeah. To now being able to go up with no medication and like take the controls that one time.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so fucking crazy.
You've come a long way, Peckham.
The biggest thing I took away from this course is that like, I really do need to learn how to fly straight and level, but also more importantly, get it on the ground.
Yeah.
In case something happens.
If you can learn, like, because what you'll need to learn how to hover.
Yeah.
You need to learn your power changes and get those dialed in.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where like most of VFR flying, they don't want you fixated on the gauges. They just want you to fly the aircraft with visual reference and just, you know, like he was talking about setting your attitude, you know, put the compass on the horizon, that'll be, you know, your 70 knot attitude or whatever. And so that's kind of like just getting what the sight lines look like. Yeah. And a lot of it when you're coming in for landings is just picking a spot, making it stay in the same position on the bubble so it's not moving up or down. And if it stays in the same spot on your bubble, you're going to land at it. Just like if you see a plane coming towards you and it doesn't move, if it's almost like it's painted on the bubble in the same spot, that means it's coming right for you.
Yeah.
But if it's kind of moving along the bubble, you're not going to be on the same collision course. Same thing with the landing. Was you learn how to land, learn how to fly, learn how to transition into a hover at a landing point, and just like put the skids down. That is all you need to know how to do.
Yeah. One thing I thought was really cool is like, you know, we talk about this a lot and you're like, you really need to learn how to do this. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. And I know that I'm not built to do this, but like, I think now that I can probably learn to that point, but
I 100% think you can.
My biggest thing was like, if I'm going to do this, I need to learn from the left seat, which is abnormal. Most people who are training, they're learning from the right seat because that's where the pilot sits, on the right.
Right.
And so there will never be a scenario where I will be sitting right seat. So I need to learn how to fly from the left. And so trying to find somebody once we get the helicopter back to do a bit of training with me in that scenario might be challenging. Bob was cool with it, which is really awesome.
Yeah,
of him to like,
I guess like if you're a flight instructor, you're used to flying from either seat.
Yeah, so one would hope that like.
Yeah, but someone might not necessarily be used to instructing from the right seat.
Yeah.
Because that's their pilot and command seat, and that's where they put the student.
I should just go to California and just train with Bob for like a week.
There you go, yeah.
I'd do that.
Bob, we're coming. We're trying to get him to start a podcast because he had so many good stories, so many good anecdotes.
It was so funny, dude. I was laughing so hard. I was like, I was not expecting to laugh during the safety course, but holy shit. Anyway, I think that's probably, I feel like I talked the whole time on the safety course and the helicopter thing.
That's good because it was a unique experience for you to sit in on the safety course. I don't think many people have done that, if anybody.
Yeah. Before we go, we saw the Millennial Falcon.
Oh, update. Yeah.
It's on the assembly line.
It has officially reached the assembly line.
The engine is done and sitting there waiting to go in.
It looks beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
The helicopter is on the assembly, like it's all sanded down. All of the repairs are made. The interior is painted.
New frame, new chromoly frame, 4130 chromoly.
Yeah. And then the
new skids.
Oh my God. The skids aren't on yet. New skids aren't on yet.
We're getting new skids though.
Yeah. Holy shit, man. It was crazy to see it like that.
Strip back,
but like in the process of being rebuilt.
Yeah.
Like with the new frame on the back and like the rotors aren't on, but the rotor shaft is in.
Yep. Main rotor drive shaft. And main rotor gearbox.
Yeah.
Which is new.
Yep.
Yeah. Or overhauled, I should say.
We're going to we did make a vlog. It's going to be a patchy, funky vlog, but we actually did film the helicopter. So you'll get to see it in a video coming up at some point over the coming weeks.
It was weird seeing the vehicle that's taken us on so many wacky adventures strip back to like just a frame.
Did you make a last minute decision during this trip to change something on your helicopter?
I did. We just kind of defaulted back to doing tan leather interior like we did last time. And I saw another ship that was dark gray charcoal interior carpet, dark gray charcoal leather, dark gray charcoal upholstery base. So everything was the darkest options you could get. And we're going to have tinted windows.
Oh, you're giving away.
Oh, I'm giving everything. Okay. So if we're going to murder this thing out, we got to go full thing.
It's got to go full thing. Now you clarify with them, you wanted the gray charcoal leather, not fabric.
Yes. Okay.
Oh my God. She's going to be murdered out.
And I felt so bad because Dave Smith, who is the new CEO president of Robinson, took time out of his day to like take us onto the factory after hours and show us the ship because there's like so much going on in the factory. You didn't want to get in people's way. He gave us almost like an impromptu tour himself, and we saw some of the showroom ships that were, there. And I saw the one with all dark charcoal, and I was like, oh, did I make a mistake with the tan?
Yep. We saw the tan and you were like, oh, definitely the tan.
Yeah.
Like over all of them when we looked in the showroom, you were like 100% tan.
But it also was kind of one of those things where it was like, I like it. I know it's like what you're familiar with because that's what you had.
Yeah.
But now thinking about it, I'm like, let's do something different.
This is going to be completely different.
Yes. And then I was like, oh man. So I emailed him that night. I felt so bad because like, I didn't want to be that guy. It's like the thing is already like, we signed off on the work order. The thing has already started production. It's halfway, it's onto the assembly line.
Yeah.
So I said,
if they haven't made it yet.
If you haven't made the upholstery yet, if you have, no worries. The tan looks great. I'm okay with it. But if you haven't made it yet, let's just do all dark charcoal.
Yeah.
And they hadn't, and they were so cool about it.
Yeah,
they were probably rolling their eyes behind the scenes like, oh, this fucking guy.
Yeah. But he's such a pain in the ass when it comes to paint. Can't pick one that we have in our thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, is that a spoiler? We can't give away the paint color.
No, we can't.
We don't even know for sure if it's going to be what it is going to be or what we would like it to be.
But they've been great this whole process.
Yeah, they've been really good communicating and going above and beyond. I feel like
we will end this now because it's now over an hour.
The helicopter's not ready. We're hoping in couple of months, we'll see. You'll know when it's back done because there will be videos.
Yes.
But we're going to end it here because it's been a while. Thanks for letting me come on the safety course, and hopefully I didn't cramp your style too much.
Of course. I love to have you.
This is my wife. She's not a pilot. She's just here hanging out, holding my hand.
Why wouldn't I want you at the safety course? You did a great job.
Thank you.
You had a lot of,
you too.
You paid attention, and I think you passed the test.
I did pass the test.
Yeah. You were looking over my shoe. I was only the only one that actually officially wrote it, but I had you make mental notes. Okay. Anyway, we're really going to end it this time.
Okay. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Call you on the next. Talk to you on the next one. Whatever. Bye.